Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today is another day on the Turbo LS S10 project. This is a second gen S10 round body. Last video we got the hot side all finished up, wastegate on, turbo on. None of the oil lines have been ran yet, and yeah, so I'm gonna start working on that. First I'm gonna start with this thing. So yeah, I gotta pull the radiator off, pull the fan off. Actually, fan and the radiator come out together, but I gotta pull the accessory drive off, the water pump, all that stuff. Radiator's pretty simple, just take this out and this out, and unplug the wire harness down there. I think there may be one or two zip ties maybe on the wiring harness, but that should pop out pretty easy. And yeah, I'm gonna get to that, and I'm gonna set up a time lapse so you guys can follow along. So I got her all torn down. She's ready to take the balancer off, take the timing cover off, put the new one on. I think I'm gonna have to clearance this power steering bracket a little bit. Try to get that to fit. This right here might interfere with the power steering and the alternator bracket. So I'm gonna have to probably take the Dremel and take a little bit of that out, but yeah, she's out of here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but right down here, I notched the core support out. Right down here, I welded this, actually this bolts on, this bracket bolts on with this circle here on both sides. And then bottom of the radiator just sits right in there. Then the top gets screwed on with these, and this is attached to the fan shroud, which the fan shroud is attached to the radiator. And I also run a bolt into the core support through this, and everything's very solid and sturdy. I really like that setup. And yeah, wow, looks kind of different. Just like this, haven't seen it like this in a while. One thing that I do hate about this thing though is the lower radiator outlet is right above the frame rail, so all the water drains right down onto the frame rail before it goes anywhere else. Then I have stuff like this in my shop, just a big old mess. But yeah, I'm gonna pull that balancer off, and probably gonna have to use a pulley puller, pull that off, put the new timing cover on, and gotta seat this gasket yet before I do that, but yeah, get to it. Well, I got the crank pulley off, harmonic balancer with the 5-ton pulley puller. I usually take the crank bolt out till just a couple threads left, then I use this thing and put it on the end of that. And yeah, once that's all bottomed out, I take one of these old bolts that I have in my bolt bin, stick it in the crank, and just put the pulley puller on the end of the bolt, on the bolt head. Bring it on out, kind of dreaded that, but it did not go bad at all. But yeah, ready to take the timing cover off. So the timing cover interfered with the power steering pump and alternator bracket, so clearanced it. I did not have to make this hole, like this part wasn't necessary, but this part right here was. I marked it completely in the wrong spot the first time. Actually, I didn't mark it, I guessed, and that's what happened. So yeah, shouldn't really make it weaker or anything. Maybe a little bit weaker, but that shouldn't have enough stress on there that it'll be a problem. But yeah, gonna go put this thing in the S10. Got the core support all buttoned up. Just got to do the upper radiator hose and just a few small things. And I moved on to the feed line. And this is a VS Racing Turbo, and the hole in the top is actually a 1/4 inch NPT or a 1/4 MPT. And I got to 4AN adapter. I was worried about using aluminum because the turbo gets very hot, but I have that on my truck. It's been running like that for at least 2 years. So yeah, working on the feed line right here, turbo feed line. I just ordered a 60-inch 4AN turbo feed line off Amazon. And here's my ICT billet oil cooler block off plate that I had bought when I started this project. And I had bought it without any holes in it, so I just drilled and tapped an 1/8 inch NPT hole into it. Bought this 1/8 inch NPT to 4AN fitting, and yeah, should work just fine. I'm gonna stick this in there and get some oil through the turbo. I still have to make the return line. I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, that's gonna be a fun one because I have to route it just perfectly. And return lines, you kind of want to get as straight down as possible and so it can flow as well as possible. That way you don't get any oil in your turbo and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll figure it out. Turbo feed is buttoned up, routed nicely down back there. Alternator goes on here, so right here, so you won't notice the lines. Shouldn't really notice it. It's kind of tucked away. And now we move on to the turbo drain. Once I do that, I'm going to fire it up because the exhaust isn't supposed to be here today. So yeah, I'll just fire it up like this, just because I can't wait to hear it through a turbo. All right, so I got the turbo drain line made. It's just a short little line to go from the turbo right down to the drain. I don't know if you can see it, but since I don't have the proper tools to cut these hoses, I usually just use a cut-off wheel or something like that. Clean it out with the garden hose, send compressed air through it, make sure everything's clean on the inside before I use it. And yeah, also right here is the turbo drain that bolts to the bottom of the turbo, and then this just threads on it, has a nice seal on it. Motion Raceworks sells these. They're pretty nice to have. Well, boys, she runs. Only got to do the exhaust. Ooh. Smells like E85. Yup, smells about right. It's running pretty rich right now. Anyway, got to do the exhaust yet. Cold side, my map sensor did not get hit. All right, guys, fast forward a couple days. I spent the weekend with family, so I just started working on this again yesterday. Yesterday was Monday. I have a car show on Thursday, so I gotta have this thing all cleaned up by tomorrow night, ready to go. Really want to make the car show. And yeah, I put a 4-inch down pipe on it, or up pipe, I think you can call it in this situation, and got the O2 sensor in. I have the wastegate. I don't have an exhaust for the wastegate yet. I just want to do a 45 up right here, but haven't gotten one for that yet. That's not a big deal. This line is just ran to atmosphere, and this line goes to the back of the intake manifold for a vacuum boost source. And yeah, I want to put a T in the line that goes to the wastegate for the blow-off valve, which is right here. That'll go right down here, just like that. I'm not going to worry about that for the car show, since I don't have an aluminum welder and I don't have friends that do, so I got to take it to a shop or something, and I don't know how fast they can do it. So yeah, I'm not going to risk it. I don't want to have the whole project. I don't want to miss the car show for, you know, something like that, because this will be just fine without a blow-off valve for now. Anyway, back to it. These clamps are all tightened down. Everything's tightened down except for this one. I ordered a bit small of a clamp here, so it fits kind of tight, so I'm going to have to struggle to get that one on. But I do have an LSA map sensor, which is a 2.5 bar. I actually just filled this thing up with coolant, let it circulate through, let it warm up, and that's all done. And the power steering, I got quite a mess under here, but I do have that figured out. Right here was the old power steering line, and somewhere on this thing there's a small leak, which is weird. I've never had a power steering an AN line burst before, but this one did. So I just threw a new one in there. It goes from the steering box to the back of the pump. So yeah, that's all fixed up, and yeah, I think she's ready. Besides that clamp, and yeah, I got to do some tuning to it too, because it's running. Yeah, well, you can guess, but I do not have the breathers on anymore. They're just sitting there, which they're supposed to run back here. This thing was over here right behind the exhaust, and that wasn't going to work, so I moved it back in the corner. Now I wish I had it right here, but I think I'm just going to go with that. And I want to go to 10 AN breather lines as well. One that just goes on top of here, the other one just sticks in there. But yeah, that's for another day. But as of now, I'm just going to fire this thing up and let you guys hear it run. There's obviously a couple things I got to do yet. Like I have this thing right here. I probably have to put a clamp on the plug that's on there, or then just take this one off and tap that thing and put a plug in it, something like that, just so that doesn't blow off. I don't know what's going to happen to this once it sees boost, but yeah, there's just a couple small concerns, but I think she's ready to drive to the car show. Like, I can't really make boost with the stock injectors that I have in here yet, so maybe like 4 or 5 pounds. I have no idea what spring is in the wastegate. It came with 2 springs. I left one of them out. I can just pop this thing back in once I get new injectors, and it's not making much boost, but I'd like to make at least 10 to 12. Just like a fun amount for the streets. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next, hopefully.